know. I passed you a few times since last week. That's about it. I think I grabbed you and kissed you once on the way through the room. That was about
I
it.
called you one time and I was like,
Oh yeah, and I didn't even get to finish that
I
conversation.
know.
You had such a great thing. You're all excited, and I was like, okay, when I get there, we'll talk. And then we didn't. I poked my head in the room and said it was late. I know it was
It
late.
was like midnight and you're like, okay, is now a good time to talk? And I'm like, tomorrow. And then it's 3 days later.
Yeah.
So, oh my gosh. Yeah, since our last podcast, I don't even know what's happened.
Oh gosh,
So
I've
last
got
Thursday,
so many
right?
things.
Okay.
Well, our podcast is obviously being watched
How?
because the one clip that you put that had that phrase, if you can't beat them, outbreed them, right?
Yeah.
So that had that got a text from a friend that's actually trying to help, but it
Yes.
basically, we'll talk about that. I managed to, and I haven't done this in a long time, but I kind of got into it on Facebook with a couple people on a post I shared about Charlie Kirk.
Mm-hmm.
And what else? There was a third thing that that kind of happened. So I just figured we'll get on here and see if I can make it worse.
Oh no.
Right. So let's start with
I'm sorry, Mom.
Yeah, your mom hates this. Your mom is like, when I do things, she's like, and
Yeah.
so, and I'm like, yeah, I don't care. So, and again, just so you know, I'm going to read this text from a friend of mine, and he'd be kind of mad if I said he's liberal, but for all practical purposes, we go
Just
at it
leave
really hard
names
politically.
out,
Yeah, leave
like-
names out. But he's a great guy, and he really does care about you and I.
I mean, I've known him for a very long time, and I have
Yeah.
nothing but respect for him
he's
and
a
his
mentor
wife.
and friend. Sucks at politics, his opinion, but he thinks the same of me.
Wow.
He's like, oh my God, pulls his hair out. And I've already pulled all my hair out on it. But this came from somebody that really cared. And so, I guess it'll be right. So, oops, let me go to the first one that he actually wrote because we exchanged all sorts of stuff. All right. Want to reach out about the podcast clip you posted with your daughter. The phrase, quote, if you can't beat them out, breed them out, carries a very heavy historical burden. Versions of this thinking have been tied to eugenics movements, Nazi ideology, white supremacist groups throughout history, and white supremacist groups. Those groups used almost the exact same words to justify discrimination, segregation, and even violence. Even if your daughter said it casually or without full awareness, once it's public, people won't separate her intent from that history. The association could stick to her name and to yours, in a way that is damaging both personally and professionally in today's world. A statement like that can quickly become a permanent record online, easily connected to extremist ideologies that I know you wouldn't want tied to your family, because he knows we're not that way. I'm sharing this not to criticize, but to point out how others will see it. Sometimes what feels like an offhand remark can echo some of the darkest chapters of history, and it's worth being cautious about what gets amplified. This is a perfect example of, quote, casual racism, which we have discussed before. Now, pause there. So there's a couple things here before you respond, because obviously that's not what you meant. And so, first of all, my first response to him was like, yeah, I don't give a shit. I just don't. Like people that know me know that I'm not a racist, that knows that I'm not, don't support any of those things. And, I don't advertise who or what I associate with or who's my family or whatever, but it's pretty obvious we're not racist, right? But this same person has explained to me that I am, quote, casually racist. I mean, I don't know that I'm racist, but I am. And I don't subscribe to that stuff. I think that's a very left-leaning thing. And I think just is a bunch of bullshit. And my second thing is, I'm not, I work for myself. I do everything for myself. I am a coach. I guess people could try to cancel me. But my theory is, A, if that cancels me, it was just my time. Like, I'm done. I'm just not going to do anything to kowtow to those things. I'm old and crotchety and I can do that now, right? Of course, I sent that to you because you can make your own decision. People might think that I tell you what to do, but I don't tell you kids what to do. You guys make your own decisions. So those are the couple points on that. And then I just think that you have to work to try to take something and attach it to something negative. You got to be looking to do that to somebody, right?
It's mindset.
Right.
Mindset. If you're looking for things that could be taken or out of context could be taken as racist, like if that's your mentality about all of life, you're gonna find racist things. It's just it's just the way of life, you know?
Right, right. And I think he genuinely, because he said in his environment, he would lose this and lose that. Well, that's not my environment, and I think it's a shame that in that environment that would happen.
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely. No, I think that everything you said is pretty on point. And sometimes like someone could listen to that and they could just say, "Oh yeah, no, you are racist," and because you're ignoring the fact that somebody came to you and said, "Oh, this is casually racist," like you must be racist, right?
Right.
Right? Because like why wouldn't you care?
I agree. And then if you look at the point that you're making, like what I've said, and this is kind of a bold statement, I'm not saying we're perfect, and of course, but I always said that if I realized how weak the current generation of kids that people my
Mhm.
age were putting out, how weak in terms of not forcing them to work hard, not forcing them to take responsibility, all sorts of things, then I would have had more kids. I'm sorry. I'm really proud of what you guys are, but we worked at that. We did not
Yeah.
give you everything. We didn't pay for everything. We don't make excuses. Two of you have been fired before. I didn't run over there and make excuses for you. I
Yep.
don't call up and tell you, your boss, why you're not showing up to work. And if you do something wrong and you fall down, I help you, but we're not over there, making excuses. So it is a different type of parenting. I do feel like, to be fair, we're at Storm now. We got a lot of this next generation. People are bringing me these 3, 5, 8 year old kids. I do see a change. I do see from all places. I don't care if it's from the city. I don't care if it's from, our immigrant families, like first, second generation. It doesn't matter. They're not just showing up wanting easy now. They want their kids to know how to protect themselves. They want them
Yeah.
to have structure. So it is changing. But, you making that comment was just a fun way of basically saying the same thing, is that we need more of our culture, the kind of culture we
Yes.
appreciate.
Yes. Yeah. But also it was never so I actually have thought about that a lot. And my first gut reaction to seeing that post, granted it was like 8 a.m. I woke up and that was the first thing I saw and I was like, oh my gosh, like that's crazy. I never in a million years would have thought that would have come back in that way, but it's kind of like with anyone who publicizes anything they do, you're always going to get criticism. And I firmly believe that he was coming from a great, like his intention was
He
to make
loves you.
sure.
He
Yeah,
loves you.
and I
Yeah.
I actually really like him, and I love conversations with people like him too, because he is very highly educated and I am not. But the kind of conversations we can have, like I did reach out to him personally, and I actually asked him, I'm like, can you give me like sources or information or something that I can read up more on this? I did like a quick AI grok search just to see what I could find, and it was out there, but it wasn't like definitely not in my phrase. And I've there's a lot of thinking that went into coming up with that phrase, and I use it jokingly, but also I'm dead serious about it, and I'll actually go into a separate podcast where I'm gonna do the research into what he brought to me, and honestly, I would very much invite him to come on to the podcast. So if you're listening, you know who you are.
He will be a handful. He's a
But I
phenomenal
would love
debater, to
that.
be honest.
But I would
Like,
love that.
yeah.
I want to do my own research too, because I've never done it on his aspect, but also I believe that everyone has really good intentions at the end of. I mean, I tend to see the best in people, and whether it's misguided sometimes, like they're coming from somewhere, and as opposed to just me being like, oh well, and I'm not like you don't care because you don't have to care. I do care because I want to actually change people's minds, and if they hear that phrase, I don't want them just to associate with me or associate that immediately to something negative. But also the only way for me to actually combat it is it's much deeper than just, oh, once upon a time somebody said that, right? Once upon a time the rainbow was actually God's, but pride took it over, and now whenever someone sees a rainbow, it's just associated with transgenderism.
Mhm.
So there's so many phrases, terms, symbolisms that can be taken over by different people with good or bad intentions. So I will expand on this more as to how I got this thinking, but basically the gist of it was I grew up in a family who had lots of kids. Mom was one of 6. Not you, but your dad was one of 8 or 9. I know I'm messing up the number again. I'm so sorry. But yes, a lot of kids. And so with that, you have really big like families. And I loved seeing that. So my grandpa is also one of many. And so the kind of family I have, like there's just a million of us. I can go into the whole family tree, and maybe one day we will, but I value my large family, and I feel bad for people who don't have a lot of family to rely on, because that is the one constant in life. And something like I've always had struggles with my immediate cousins who are a step outside of my siblings and my own siblings, but as opposed to having friends whose lives you don't really know, whose intentions you might not know, even if it's based in goodness. Like, I know how my cousins were raised because I was raised with them. So at any point in all of history, if I've ever, and I have definitely had my disagreements with them, and some have lasted for years, they're built-in friends. They can't go anywhere.
Right.
I can always fix it, and not
Right.
that that's how I kind of want
Well-
it to be seen as, is like, oh, I can say whatever I want to my cousins and ruin whatever relationships because they can't go anywhere. No, they're built-in friends. Like, I've always said that my cousins are built-in friends.
Well, that's something interesting, because something that I always tell people, and I always try to remind myself, because I've been extremely guilty of this, is the theory is we love and take care of the closest people the most. That's what we're supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
But in real life, what happens is, because we know they're not going anywhere, we tend to take advantage of the people we love, like me and Lisa, your mom, right? So, I might go and offer things that put her out or put us out for somebody because I'm trying to help, and she'll be like, sometimes it seems like it's at a deficit to somebody in the family, and we all do that. We all take advantage of who we love the most because we figure they're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And a second point on the social media thing, and this is interesting because it plays on the whole Charlie Kirk thing. I never thought about it, because what he was really good at was saying, listen, if you disagree with me, let's go over the facts and do it. And I've been watching some of the videos where they're like, well, you're never proven wrong. Well, he wasn't. They couldn't articulate. Hold on, let me get to the point. They couldn't articulate against a fact. So if they said something, then there was a fact that would actually was impossible for them to overcome, and they felt like they lost the debate. So before thinking about that, what I started doing online, that's why I haven't been in a lot of arguments, is when people start this left-wing stuff, well, this and that and that, for instance, Jason, Pat's Jason, I won't say the relationship, but, he hates Trump, which is fine. So I'm like, okay, but why do you hate Trump? So every time he gave me a reason, I said, that's not factually correct. And he just kind of blew through it. Well, that's when we're sitting on the beach. We started getting online and going onto my post. And I said, here, I go, we don't need to do this. Let's do a public online debate where we cannot take it down and it cannot be filtered. And you pick two topics. We'll both research them thoroughly. We'll have a debate. If you kick my ass, great. And not one time, I've offered that 10 times. And not one time have I been taken up on it, because they already know that they cannot win on the facts of the matter, or the things they say cannot be backed up with facts. The only time I did that debate was with Jeff Williams during COVID. And it was about Black Lives Matter, and it was about COVID itself and how it affected people. And the interesting thing is, and I haven't done this, it'd be kind of a dick move, but I can take that video, edit it, kind of shorten it, and show that basically everything I said was going to happen, I was right. I explained how BLM did not help any black people. I explained that they were taking the money and using it for nefarious purposes. And also I explained some of the negative things the website at the time had about black people and what they were doing. They were encouraging prostitution. They were taking a nuclear family, so it was not helping. And what's funny is they took it off the website since. They did get busted for stealing all the money. And then also when it came down to the actual COVID, remember I was crunching the numbers and I said, we're not dying the way they think we are. I mean, it was a horrible thing, and especially the early strain, but the more the mortality rates were different, right? So it turns out that debate, and I did win that debate in my opinion. And if you look at it now, it's a killer. But it's the only time that happened. And I respect him for debating it. But the thing is most of the time, if you can sit down and study it and talk and not edit it, that's the primary difference between people that you would call, because, my friend Sherman Nelson is right. Just saying left or liberal is not necessarily the way to go. But I'm sorry, that is the theme. The theme is left-leaning versus right-leaning.
But that's also something else that I've been thinking about lately is like generalizations, because Charlie Kirk has been thrown into a general pool of various people where like you can now take him and be like, oh my gosh, he's racist, he's this, he's that. And so nobody actually really questions what exactly are liberals and how like some people can call themselves that. And then one person can do something horrendous and now it looks bad on all the liberals.
Right.
I don't actually like the idea of generalizing a lot. Now, like that's a changed opinion of mine, because I used to always say like, oh, it's left versus right. Like it's not actually.
But sometimes like they.
I mean, it comes about typically pretty honestly. However, when you listen to people debate and they're like, well, you can't say that because this one person's different, or you can't say that because this one person acted out of, well, nobody's perfect. So no, it doesn't matter what group you're affiliated with. There's bad people there, but there's also good people. So a lot of like the liberals, I've started looking at their ideas, in a different light. And it's really just questioning, how did they come to that?
See, you're giving them too much credit. Here's the thing. If the most of the people I know that are liberal leaning that I get along with that say their opinions, and I'm like, they're just not researching. They don't care to. That's okay. Just say, listen. And some people admit that.
But not all liberals don't research. They just research.
But the people that debate with me and say like, this person's a racist, like Charlie Kirk is this and that and the other. I'm like, you've never actually watched the video. And they say, you're right. I don't care. All right. I'm good with that.
Yeah, but when just as many people do that on the right,
but when they assert that he is,
so that's another generalization that applies to a lot of people in every area of life. So I don't accept.
But let's make one point. But let's make one point. So right now, people are getting canceled. Yeah. By the right, so it's true. Like,
well,
okay,
they're getting canceled by employers.
But here's
a lot
the
of
difference.
People.
But
you
here's
don't actually
the difference.
know what they're affiliated with.
We could get canceled by telling the truth. For instance, refusing to acknowledge that a man is a woman. They're getting canceled because they're celebrating the death of a human. That's a major difference. Yes. And to me, you were saying, well, give them credit and go either way. But the truth is,
I'm not giving them credit.
It's a much fuzzier argument. I'm sorry, when you get on the left side. It's a much fuzzier argument than on the right side. And like, even when, let's just break it down to just humans. When a husband and wife argue, generally, sometimes we tend to be over logical.
That's true.
And my wife, for example.
It's how God created us.
Right.
To be more
might
logical,
be more emotional.
Men.
It doesn't mean that she's necessarily wrong. What I say all the time, you've heard me admit this because I argue hard with your mom and your mom. I say, listen, we'll get that into the argument, and I'll tell Lisa, I'm like, all right, you're not right. I don't think you're right. I don't think but you're not happy. So because you're not happy, whether I'm right or wrong, obviously you feel this way. Something we're doing is making you feel this way. So I want to fix it anyways, because that's after I'm done being pissed, right? Because I'm like, I'm right. This is not what happened. But it doesn't mean that I don't have to address the things that are making her upset, right? So I think that's kind of more along the lines of what you're saying. Yeah, there are fundamental things that people aren't happy about, and we shouldn't just ignore them. It's a community of people, right? But at the same time, to when you can't articulate that, or not willing to say, listen, this is how I feel, and that these things are getting me there, they tend to, and again, politics do a lot of this, they tend to send out information that's just not accurate that justify that. And I'll give you a good example. I had somebody say the other day, somebody told me that Charlie Kirk was against the Civil Rights Act. And he goes, and I really couldn't argue it. I looked it up, and it was right, but I didn't have time to really see. So once you look it up, what he said was that's because the Civil Rights Act was being used to allow men to compete with women. He said it should have been restricted to race. So it shouldn't. So he was in agreement that it should help. It was primarily for African Americans, right? So that they wouldn't be punished, and they were being punished, right? But they made it sound like he was a racist because he said the civil rights movement, he was against it, but it was because how it was being used in other scenarios. So, but they publicized that stuff, just like Stephen King got hard, checked really hard. Nobody wants his books now or his movies from the books because he went and said some terrible things about Charlie Kirk that were absolutely untrue. He read a meme, right? And I'm sure he's sorry for that. Like, that's a lesson, right? So I don't know. I think sometimes it's about people being hyperlogical. I would even say to a fault sometimes. And then hyper, I call it a gray area, but hyper emotional.
Yeah.
And I think that's where our Rangers are at. That's never going away. So again, to have a war between, to your point, liberal and conservative, or say one is right or not, I agree. Yes, both can do crazy things, but there is a major difference in how they fight. No,
absolutely.
reason.
And that's not at all what I was negating.
Right.
However, just lumping somebody who associates with liberals into the liberal mindset, like, I don't know. It's just like, what really is the liberal mindset? Yeah, it can be more emotional. It has. And something I've said is like the people who run as Democrats their party has left old, people who 10 years ago would have self-identified as a liberal. They've left them because they've gone really, really extreme. But people change, parties change, and so do intention. So somebody who was good intention at one point could turn and now not be good intention, and vice versa.
Right.
That can happen the other way around. So that's why having debates are important, though, because people can change their minds. And if you're not having dialogue, which like social media does not, as much access as we have to talking to other people, it pretty much squashes any kind of debate or conversation that people have. And it's usually done because for all sorts of reasons, but because people get really emotional about topics. And even people on the right, like being angry is an emotion, and that's typically more associated with Republicans.
Yeah, you get frustrated. Yeah. Well, I hate politics, so I'd like to just get off the politics thing for a minute. Brian Murray agreed to come on the podcast, and we were talking about mentors I've had in business people. He was just bringing up some stuff. I was going to he's a gunsmith too right now. And so I went to get him a gun and get our guns back. And he happened to have a broken truck. So I went and grabbed him, had lunch, swapped guns. And when I said that, he goes, I've got so many things. And he was bringing up stuff that you will love to hear that I don't want to spoil, that I had completely forgot about. And I forgot, he knew my dad. He knew Capone, that's the era so we're going to get him on the podcast, and there'll be some cool stories, especially in your quest of kind of getting stories about me and how it relates to, that. So that is pretty cool. What do you have going on? Let's pick a topic. I kind of dominated what we talked about just now.
You dominate every conversation. What do you mean?
I do.
Yeah, I don't know. My week was pretty hectic. It's literally been go. The only time I go home is either to cook or to go to sleep.
Yes.
But so since like our last podcast, I've actually thrown out almost all of my, like, a lot of stuff. I think I've taken 12. I have a large room, but I also share with my grandma who has Alzheimer's. So we share it together, and I've been trying to just like declutter, and I've been doing it for so long and just not effectively. And I feel like I've always just kind of been moving stuff around. I'm very sentimental, so I tend to collect things. And I actually think I removed 20 bags of donations or garbage or just things that were laying around.
Like garbage bags?
20 garbage bags of clothes. But so, just like after our last podcast, I've been on this quest for a long time of like just kind of not self-sabotaging myself, but because when you know better, you do better. So ever since COVID, I've been doing a lot of research into just how to be healthier all around. I always suffered with brain fog and like a constant chronic stomach aches or skin problems. Like I've always just literally, I'll have to pull up one of my old notes because over time I've written it down just to kind of keep track, so I could be like, all right, now a year from now, what kind of symptoms do I have, or what things are chronically problems. And then I've been doing research to figure out like what's healthier, and just even if I replace one thing that's poisoning me in my house with something better, and then going forward, not buying the crappier products again, or clothes or this or that, I call it a win. Because something else I've noticed is people are really, really hopeless. And it's like, how do you actually create manageable steps to fix problems? But you have to actually know what those problems are to actually do anything about it. And it starts by picking up a book. So my most recent thing was, what fabrics are killing me? And I did a little bit of research, not even a ton, but I looked at this article, and it talked about how polyester, nylon, rayon, like their frequency, or even just like the way they're made, is poisonous to our bodies. Really? And our skin is our biggest organ. So and for me, I've always had skin problems, and I've also had lymph node problems too. Like they've been chronically enlarged. I've been to the doctor for it multiple times.
I had to have mine removed.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you that?
Well, hang on. Let me finish my thought. And then that actually pisses me off because...
You didn't know that?
No. But I was having a conversation with someone else, and I've known other people who, when they go to the doctor and they're like, I'm having this problem, and say like, oh, my lymph nodes are chronically enlarged. Oh, okay, well, we'll just remove them, and then your problem's fixed. And actually, having enlarged lymph nodes is a symptom of a bigger problem, and it's not an acute problem. Like acute problems are like, oh, I just cut open my arm and now I'm bleeding out, and if I don't take care of this right now, like I'm probably gonna die, right? Or I hit my head and now I'm like bleeding, or there's all kinds of acute problems. Chronic problems is like, oh, it's there, I can still manage, I can still do what I need to do on a daily basis, but it is a symptom of a larger problem. But how do you tackle that? Because so many things, like this is kind of taking me down a little rabbit hole, because I've been doing so much research, and I have more to this that I will share at more in the future. But my most recent thing was like, I have rosy cheeks, and I'm like, okay, how do I get rid of rosacea? And I watched this video, and it's like, what is rosacea? Rosacea is like an inflammatory response due to, and it's like, oh, there's no cause. Oh, okay, so how do you treat it? Oh, they don't really know. They don't really know. So that's along the same lines of like your lymph nodes. They don't really know what caused your problems, so they just cut them out of you. Well, your skin's a big organ, and it absorbs everything in your environment, including the clothes that you're wearing. So if there's poisons in your clothes and now it's absorbing into your skin and now it's circulating in your body, how does your body get rid of it?
Good point.
Your lymph nodes, your lymphatic system. So how does it really work? Well, I'm definitely no doctor, but
It's okay. Doctors don't know what the hell they're doing anyways. They don't troubleshoot anything. They just do whatever the book says and give you the drug that says so.
Unfortunately, our school systems have squashed any kind of critical thinking, and I value the fact that I never did go to school, so I still have the ability to understand when something's bullshit and when something doesn't make sense. I threw away, I actually went through all my clothes. Part of my problem lately that was just kind of like living rent free in my brain is, okay, now I have all my fall clothes. I need to bring them out and swap them with my summer clothes. Also, it's like 80 degrees in Michigan right now, and we should be experiencing fall weather. We are not. It is hot, so I couldn't really do that. But also, some days it is colder, and I also want to see what I'm wearing. Well, I have no room in my closet. I split it with a 95-year-old woman. So after like I was thinking about it, I'm like, I know this is poison. I've known for a long time, but I've been making excuses. I need to look nicer. I need to, I just like it. It's just cute. And then I pulled out everything and I laid it on my bed. I'm like, this is all poison. And it's all the fabrics that are just actually really bad for you. When I looked at it, I started thinking, and I've been having a raging headache lately, like right here. And every time and I know this sounds so weird, but our bodies really do tell us what we need. But you have to kind of like clear out the noise. Like imagine there was like 20 different songs playing at once and you wanted to listen to one song that was really, really good. Well, you have to turn off all 20 songs before you can actually hear the one. So to me, like in my journey over the last 4 years of decluttering and just cleaning out not only my home physically, but also like my body, my physical body, I've been able to pay attention more to like what my body really needs. And if you listen, like it will tell you. And I know it sounds so wacky, but it's so true. So as I held those clothes, I'm like, actually, my headache is so much worse right now. And I set it down, and then I could kind of like, as I was pulling it off the racks, I'm like, I already know this is not good for me. I just don't feel right about it. It just doesn't feel right. And I once you read the label, it's like, yeah, that's garbage. And then when I look at all the stuff that was left on my racks, I'm like, these are all my favorite clothes, and I can never find them because it's surrounded by literal poison. But constantly we are told that, oh, like here's the newest clothes, the newest fashion, every season you need a different wardrobe, and oh my gosh, now there's a new trend, and where is it all coming from? It's imported from other countries who actually they're industries that have scaled up so large that they're trying to make things as cheap as possible.
Yeah, it's all about profit.
It's not fucking good for you. It's not good. It's poison.
Well, I have the worst tonsil story ever that I've heard. So my throat always hurt. It was always sore. I go to the doctor. They tried everything. Now I'm 18 years old. We're going to pull out your tonsils. It's a little worse when you're an adult, but it'll be okay. So, I get sick from any narcotic, Tylenol 3, hydrocodone, anything that's a hardcore narcotic, even a light narcotic, even tramadol, I get sick. So I go, my aunt takes me, Aunt Gloria, because my dad was dead at this point. So they cut out my tonsils. She sends me home. My house is under construction. It's completely destroyed, right? And I'm upstairs in bed. Actually, when I got the surgery, the second I woke up, they gave me a Tylenol 3. I puked right through where they just got done burning my tonsils. They're like, oh, we don't want that. Oh, so I went home. They gave me more Tylenol 3, but I knew I couldn't take it. So I'm sitting at home, and I'm not eating because it hurts. And I'm not taking the pain meds. So I'm literally just not eating, barely drinking water, sitting in bed, nobody there, by myself in the house. So after like 3 days, I call up Aunt Gloria, and I'm like, or she calls me, and I'm like, I am dying. What's the matter? Can't take the pain medication. I had my tonsils taken out. This is horrible, right? And again, there's nobody even other than me just getting up, getting a little water. That was it. So she goes, hold on. She comes and visits. She brings me Motrin. We understand that's when Motrin was new. We didn't know Motrin was an anticoagulant. So I took the Motrin, then my throat hemorrhaged and started bleeding. So after like a week, I end up back in the hospital for like 7 more days.
Oh
Okay.
no.
So I do all that. They get me fixed up. Then when I'm done, I end up having my lymph nodes cut out
Why?
because I still had a sore throat. They were swollen up. So that
I know why, because they didn't actually fix anything.
Exactly.
They just removed the symptom, but that I don't know enough to be like what exactly were your tonsils and your lymph nodes supposed to do. I know that it's supposed to detox, but
I have a funny story that this has triggered 3
that
different
explains
times.
so much. Your body is
I'm beat up.
not
I'm beat
good.
up. I've had a lot of stuff done. But I just got to tell the story because this is Tommy Lenhart. Remember
Yeah.
Tommy Lenhart? So when my dad died, I got a construction loan for the house to fix it up, $60,000. And I was just old enough to get the loan. So there was this guy named Bill LaRose. He has recently passed away. First of all, before I tell this story, because it's going to look bad, one of the nicest guys you ever met, cowboy hat, dimpled chin. Hell, he was so sexy. I liked him, right? This guy was like amazing. So, but nice guy, but he's a builder. And he was building a house for the love of his life at the time, not too far away. So I hired him to do the house. And basically it was a mess. So how it worked back then, or maybe now, was a construction loan is you would give draws to the builder for the labor that was calculated, and you would set the account at a lumber yard so that the builder could then draw and have wood delivered. So my sickness has all happened while this was going on, and while he's building this house, I'm like, why are you not here building? And he kept getting slower and slower, and it wasn't getting done. So I found out that he had almost taken 100% of the draw from the lumber yard, and he was using it to build his house. And I had paid him most of the labor, and the job wasn't even like 15% done. So Tommy and I went and basically kind of roughed him up and took all his tools, locked him in Tommy's horse trailer, and parked it at my house. And we took his truck and we would drive him to my house and back every single day to work on my house. And he did. He was done. And we gave him just enough money to eat and to pay a couple basic bills because his house was under construction, as well.
Yeah.
But we stopped him. And so we basically, made him finish the house because I was 18 years old. Tommy was kind of, making sure I was, he did most
Not
of the heavy
getting
lifting on that.
taken advantage of?
And then as it started getting done, we did finally give him his truck back and gave him enough, gas
Was
to
that
get back and
before or
forth.
after your lymph nodes?
That was what I'm saying. That the lymph nodes were after the tonsils, so this was, the lymph nodes were after that. But I mean, this is all happening at the same time because I was telling a story about like what the kind of crazy shit we did. You can't get away with that now. I got to remember this is a time where there's no cell phones, no cameras, everything's a dial-up phone, right? I mean, if you drove somewhere, there's no maps, and you like this is a different time. But that was like, I'm like, what are we gonna do? He took all my money. He's like, oh, we'll fix it. We went over there, and after that, the crazy thing is, you realize when the car went through the house when I don't think you were born yet. Okay, we had a car run through the house. Whole nother story. In the Byron Road house, like park in our living room. He actually helped us when we had the insurance job. He helped us with the bathrooms, redo all the bathrooms. Since we got the insurance money, he actually ended up doing all our bathrooms after that. So he recovered from that, and we were still friends, and he was, we were still acquaintances after all that thing happened. It just tells you how strange things were back then.
Yeah.
You remember that you know a car hit our house,
I knew
right?
that, but even if I was on the
You
ground,
weren't a baby.
I would have been
because
young.
Cassie was running around at this high off the ground at the time.
Yeah, then definitely not.
So I'm sitting in our living room.
Wasn't she in the living room?
No, the day before.
Okay.
Because this kind of a horrifying story. I'm sitting on my couch in the living room, and a guy named Atif, he was a sales guy that I had for me and Mom at the time, was sitting here, and a couple other people. I think Matt Celia might have been there too. And while we're sitting having this meeting, and I'm facing the outside wall, suddenly the room blows up. It is absolutely surreal, right? The whole room blows up. And next thing I know, there's a car, the front half of a car parked in the right in the middle of the living room. This guy got ejected, or the guy directly that was on that wall, and actually Atif was on that wall. He came flying forward, hit his knee on the coffee table. This guy got spun out. So everybody got displaced but me. I'm 3 inches from my legs is all the rest of the rubble in the room it just exploded. So I get my bearings. I look, and you know me, I'm a little bit younger than a little bit more reactive, so to speak. So I get up, I climb over the hood of the car, and I look, and there's a guy in the passenger seat, and the driver door is open, and there's this kid weaving, like stumbling like a drunk guy down the sidewalk. This is in the city, in the Howell, right in the city.
Wow.
So I looked at the guy that's trying to get out of the other side, and I said, "You need to go get him before I do, because I'm gonna fucking kill him." So you go get, and so he gets out, runs the guy down, brings him back.
Was that the driver or the passenger?
I made the passenger go get the driver, because I'm
Oh.
telling you, if I would have jumped off that car and run him down, I was going to beat him to death. All I could think of how Cassie was running around in that living room the day before.
Yeah.
So he grabs him. Cops show up. Everybody calls the cops. I didn't even have to call them. And it turns out they were huffing. You know what huffing is?
No.
They were taking keyboard cleaner. A lot of people huff the aerosol out of whipped cream, right? They call it whippets, right? Well, they also call it huffing. They were taking keyboard cleaner, that chemical, and breathing it in to get high. And as he did that, you could see the tracks had gone up had voided a bunch of trees. And we had one of those old traditional, like jut out type porches. So when he clipped the porch, it redirected the car and went right up the porch. It's like 3 steps up. Our house was not ground level.
Right.
It jumped up the steps
Wow.
and parked.
So did it go like we had that front porch part? That's where.
That's why we built that big long porch. It was just a step porch. It was just it's like 10 by 6 with the cool old like posts.
Wow.
And we redid it and fortified it for that exact purpose.
Well, that sucks, because that house, I have lots of good memories there, but it was like on a little triangle piece of property where there was 3 roads around it, and it wasn't, how many acres was that?
Like a third.
Yeah, like it was nothing. So that's so scary, like just knowing that. Is that why you guys built fences too, or did you plant more trees after
The
that?
fences were to put the dogs, because you remember,
Oh, okay.
do you remember the registered sex offender caused Magnum to get hit by a car? Do you remember that?
No.
Another crazy story, right? So I had him trained not to leave the yard. So this guy on a bike used to ride a bike every day. And when you see an adult riding a bike every single day back and forth to work, generally they probably lost their license, because they're usually an alcoholic or something like that. No big deal. No judgment. It happens to the best of them. I had a lot of alcoholics in my family. But you just know when you see that dude riding the bike that, So he's riding the bike, and he gets scared. He kind of gets startled from Magnum, who's going to the bathroom right on the grass.
Right.
He jumps off his bike and drops his bike, scares the dog. Dog backs up, and a Suburban hits my dog and skips him 50 feet down the street. You can see bodily fluid marks.
Is that why Magnum had like bad hips?
This is it. No, it was an elbow. So this is exactly why I had to retire him early. So I'll get to that next. So then he gets hurt. I take him in. Turns out he's got bone chips in his elbow. We hunted him for a couple more years. I had to retire him early. Send him to Kurtz. But anyways, the guy that hit him on the bike, he kept stopping by to see how the dog was. He felt terrible. Nice guy. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking, though, he's coming by. You guys are around. So I'm thinking, okay, there's got to be a reason why this guy's on a bike. So I went and pulled up. It's the only time in my life I just thought to pull up the sex offender map. I don't know why I thought of it. And sure enough, he is staying at a house that was a registered sex offender. So me being going, this is a pretty nice guy, I said, okay, I got to figure out what's going on. So all I said was like, the house you're living in is registered to a sex offender. And he gets really sad. He goes, I know. He goes, that's me. I said, okay. I said, well, I have to ask. I mean, you're coming here. I got kids here. I don't know what's going on. I have to ask. And so he told me the whole story. And, they'll make the long story short. He was on a date. He drank too much. He pushed her too far. He feels bad about it. Don't know if it's true or not. Don't care. Right. I mean, it sounds like it was something that, who knows, both sides of the story. But the interesting part isn't that. First of all, I told him, listen, I get it, but that I just can't take a risk. You can't come here, because even if, I don't know if you're telling the truth, I don't have the facts, and nobody's going to trust their kids around somebody that potentially has that risk. So, I just got to say, you can't come here no more. But the one thing he said was, he goes, that's fair, and I understand. He goes, but you're the only person ever asked me what happened.
Wow.
He says, I've been so, and again, he earned it somehow, right?
Yeah.
But he says, I've been so upset and sad because the second somebody sees that mark there, they don't even ask, right? Because I'm not out, and his argument is, I never touched a child, never done this and that. I probably went further than I should have when she said no, whatever. And, I took responsibility for that. I went to jail, but he was really hurt, and again, a lot of people are going to feel bad for the guy, but he was genuinely hurt that nobody took the time to ask what happened.
Yeah.
Right. And he even understood when I said, listen, you can't be here, because who's going to take that even 0.01% risk that something bad is going to happen? Their children, nobody. Right.
Yeah. And to add to that, growing up, like something that you and mom were really intentional about was not letting me go to people's houses who you didn't really know well.
Oh yeah. We're very
because
careful.
that's a risk too.
Right.
And there, so growing up, there's like I had the conversations with my own friends, but then there's like a TikTok trend for like my generation where, as adults, we're like, oh, my parents didn't let me go to sleepovers. And then when you hear other people's stories, it's like, wow, I wish my parents took that same approach, because they have horror stories of that weird dad or that weird person that was around, or the extreme is all over the place. But yeah, I mean, but also nobody's perfect. And you have to ask those questions, because there's two sides to every story.
Right,
Doesn't
right.
mean that they're both right. They're always biased, but, that is something that's been a common theme in my life is I don't just take for face value what people say or what I hear from other people or I see,
I thought of something else on the way here.
What?
Do you remember the first time a friend of yours lied to you and you would have sworn she was telling the truth?
Yeah, it was Cheyenne.
That was yep, it was Cheyenne. So do you want me to tell the story? Or you want to tell the story?
No, you tell the story.
So there was when cameras just came out where they had the little battery powered cameras that kind of recorded and did that. And she came from a troubled house. We did our best to have her come over, and there were times their power would get kicked off, and we made sure the power got turned on so the kids could have showers. Like we understood hard things happen, but the parenting there wasn't great, and the situation wasn't great. And I don't care if they hear this, they know that the time the situation wasn't great, but she came one time. The garage was.
Well, we were not home.
Right. And she took like frozen dirt and kind of gouged our garage door and drew on it. Right. No big deal. At the end of the day, it wasn't a lot of harm. But, I kind of guessed what happened. And I said, so I told you what had happened. And you said that you would ask her. And when you asked her, she completely lied to you, swore it didn't happen. And you were a young girl. You're like, what, 8 or 9 maybe?
Yeah.
And I said, honey, this is one of the lessons. Remember, I said, this is going to be your first lesson, is that people lie and people are good at lying. And sometimes you're going to be disappointed. That was kind of the theme of what I said, right? Fair?
Yeah.
And sure enough, I showed you the video and you were devastated. Do you remember that?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I do not like it when people lie to me. But that's something that's a value we were raised with. And I think people get used to slipping in little white lies, but where there's one, there's always more.
Right.
And then when somebody's willing to lie so easily, it's like, where does it end?
Right. But what we didn't do is we gave her a chance to recover from it, learn from it, admit that she did it. We cleaned it up, and it was good, because everybody makes mistakes.
She was only
children.
a couple years older than me, so she was like 10.
Right.
And it's not like she probably, honestly, I don't really think she meant to do it like maliciously. Honestly, at their house, it was not. I've been in their house. It was not a nice place to live. So,
do you remember when you punched the shit out of her brother?
You remember this? I think I was even younger than that.
These were the greatest days of my life. So you came in and said, well, which one? It was the bigger one. He kept picking on you. Or he kept hitting you.
The little one.
Oh, the little one. Anyways, well, they're boys.
Well, I think, but he was actually closer to my age.
Yeah, he's closer. He's roughly your age.
Yeah.
So you came home and said, Dad, he keeps hitting me. I don't like it when he hits me. And no matter what I tell him, he won't stop hitting me, this, that, and the other,
It was never like absurd, like a lot, it was never much. It was just like a solid punch. And I'm like, stop hitting me. But also we were raised, doing Taekwondo and stuff. And I don't think it's fair just to whoop someone's ass for no reason. But also what I was learning was like, what line, when do I cross that line?
And you're one of the best punchers in the family. Like, one thing about those arms, I mean, you could punch. You had a great punch in Taekwondo. We were messing around. You had a great punch. You always had a great punch.
Chris, but
good punch.
I know how to use these knuckles.
So I said, honey, you ask him one more time. Same thing in the story I told my dad, basically. I told you the same thing. You ask him really nicely not to touch you. And if he even looks like he's going to hit you again, you punch him. And I said, don't punch him in the face, but you punch him hard and do it until he's going to stop, right? So I forget about it, right? So I'm sitting here with the women in the room. So grandma's there, and
Yeah.
this is before she lost her mind, right? This is where, and then Lisa was there, her sisters were there, everybody was there, right?
I remember that.
So yeah, so you walk, he goes, well, Dad, I did it. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He hit me and I punched him and he fell down and cried and ran home. And I was like, I did exactly what you said. And I'm like, oh God, so and I told you he will never hit you again. That was the thing that I said, right? So then all the women are looking at me like, what the fuck did you do? Right? And I said, and honey, he will never hit you again. And you went outside and it was like the best time ever and he didn't, right? Never again did he hit you. And you guys got along.
Yeah.
Right? So that would make me very proud. You defended yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, that was definitely. I didn't want to be mean because I knew that if I hit him that it would hurt, and I didn't want to hurt him. I don't like hurting people.
No.
But I hit him right in the chest and I knocked the wind out of him. And
Well, you had a reputation for being kind of mean. I'll never forget.
that's not even true though.
You did though, because
when I got older, yes, because I was actually such a nice kid that when I hurt my sibling, and they all deny it, but they're all younger than me. And ask mom, she'll no, I know, but I'm saying in this time frame,
yes,
if I hurt or even offended somebody, I actually would cry because I didn't mean it like that.
I know,
I cried because I didn't want to hurt their feelings and I didn't want to hurt them physically, but.
In the ring.
That's not even true. That's not even true. There was a turning point, and it happened around the age of 12 where actually I'm like, I am just getting stepped on by everyone in my life, and I have to basically hold my own boundaries because, like Kenny or that kid punching me, like people would metaphorically punch me all the time, and I was like, okay, like. Don't do that, please. And then there was no consequences to that. I had to go to school with them, or I was forced in those same situations. But you're right. Eventually I got mean, but it's a lot different because when I was a kid, like under the age of 12, really, I was actually like probably one of the nicest kids you ever would have met. And I had to get a mean edge to me because the world beats you up. But I always try and come back and still be nice.
Well, when you came back and started fighting at the world-class level.
Well, that's different. I was like 15 years old.
I know it's different, but I'm just saying, people go.
And it's sanctioned violence.
I know. Well, people would say, listen, Melissa looks great. She's fighting great, and I like it. She's kind of mean. People are a little scared of her. And I like that. I mean, these are coaches that are good coaches, so they liked that you brought that energy.
But also, I wasn't like that off the mats. Like if I had ever seen any of those people, like that's totally different. Like I didn't just walk up and like hurt.
When you make people quit or got to make counts or knocked them out or whatever, you did it, but afterwards you're like, God, I feel really bad about how hard I kicked her in the face.
I actually really did. There was a lot of instances when I was competing where I would see the way that someone was treated after I beat them, and it wasn't their fault. And then I'm like, I actually don't feel good about that at all, and I'm really sad about it.
You mean how the coach handled
it? So many things, so many levels, or there's so many young women who were not very confident in themselves, and they take that loss so personally. And I didn't do that. So not that I don't know. I just didn't think about it the same way. I thought about it like, hey, I'm going out there to have fun. We are all here to compete. We're choosing this, pretty willingly to go out on the mats and actually
the rule
fight.
set allows knockouts. So,
and there's, if you didn't want to partake, you don't partake. However, a lot of people base like their lives off of how much they succeed. I mean, I did not win all the time in Taekwondo. When you look at, honestly, my average of medals, it was not first place.
But all the great fighters have lots of losses.
I know, but I won in the long run because not one person ever came up to me and like said like, wow, you lose a lot. And if they did, I didn't hear it because I didn't listen to that kind.
You.
Yeah, and like, do you ever lose? Like, actually, yeah, all the time. And another question I got that's kind of along these lines is like, somebody asked me, is there anyone I don't like? Anyone who like I just don't like? And I'm like, actually, yeah, there's a lot of people that I don't like. You just wouldn't know because I would just limit time with them, and then I can handle just about anything for a short amount of time. But
right.
But yeah, so like those kind of questions, like, no, just because of the way I carried myself inside and outside of the ring, nobody remembered when I lost because I did it with grace. And and then at the end, like, it's really, even if I was crying because I was in pain, you always shake the other person's hand because we chose to fight, and you get respect for beating me, you know?
Right.
And so does the coach, because so there's actually a lot of instances where they wouldn't shake our hands when I would beat them. And it really saddened me. And then it brings it back to that story at the US Open, my first big tournament. I couldn't even get the person who beat me, but didn't win first, to take a picture on the podium with me
Right.
because they didn't get first.
You know, I tell
That's a sore loser.
I tell a lot of athletes that I'm like, you know
sad.
what? If you lose, you always go to the win or lose, go to the podium, because you don't know. Some athletes can barely afford to make those events. Some athletes might have lost for 5 years straight and finally won. They deserve the respect on that podium for that period of time. And something else that I'm going to repeat that you just said. Remember Liberty. Remember again, when Liberty started finally really doing well at tournaments, she was a savage in our studio, but there's always a problem, or often a problem, bringing that out at tournaments because of the pressures and all these things, right? So I remember her saying, you know, I'm really nervous about competing. I said, I'm looking forward to it. You know, I always told them it's our time together to take all the practice and, you know, spend the time, forget all the pressure. She goes, well, I'm excited about that too, but, you know, my students are going to see me, because she was teaching with us. And she's like, I'm worried that if I lose, they're going to think that I'm no good. And I said, you know, that's not what people look at. And this plays into what you said. If you fight the way you fight in this room, out on that mat of that tournament, number one, if you lose, it's going to be one hell of a fight. A great fighter is going to beat you. And nobody remembers the score in those matches. They remember it was a great fight. And that's why people didn't perceive you as a loser, because whether you won or lost, it was a battle. I mean, you always brought it 100%. In fact, I was fearful how willing you were to let those feet just go right near your chin. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to sit here in the seat and my daughter's going to get knocked out cold. But you had zero fear when you were in that match, or at least the perception of it. I know it was anxiety or whatever, but you really were all in, and you really believed you could win. You really believed in what we were doing. You listened to me so well. So, you know, and again, another thing that I'm just going to throw in here because I'm on a roll. A lot of coaches can't coach their own children. I've asked you, I've asked Megan, I've asked Peter. Megan just fought this weekend. Did amazing. Greatest time. And all of you said...
Probably one of our best fights ever, right?
Yeah.
But she lost.
She actually lost the match. But she had a tremendous match, and the girl was really good.
And she was so proud of it. I heard her talk. She's still just talking about that fight.
Oh, yeah.
She lost.
Unfortunately, that girl's got a concussion, it turns out, too. Not just a busted nose, but a concussion. But the girl's amazing. The coach said, hey, don't worry about it. We wanted that fight. We wouldn't have traded in the fight. It was a good experience. But the girl's much bigger, and it was just... She didn't win the match on points, but she had a great fight. Same thing. Yeah. People love the match. Don't care. But, you know, but the fact that all three of my kids still would prefer me to be in the chair, that means I sent the right message. And not saying at times I didn't maybe talk too much about Taekwondo, but I think overall, you know, you guys knew I didn't care if you lost. I just wanted 100%. I wanted you to show up. And then when it was over, you know, so whatever I did, and I think I know what I did.
So a huge part of that too, of why we did like you, is like, you knew us better than anybody else. You knew if I made a face at you, like there was something wrong. And I didn't have to say anything.
Right.
We had an ability to communicate without even saying a word, like the whole thing. I knew exactly what you were saying, and you didn't have to say shit. But then, like, when I would fight with other coaches, they would try and get me to do things that were outside of my capabilities. I was not the most flexible fighter.
Right.
But you helped me find a way to work around the basically, like, you know, my faults, and use it in a way that was unique. That's why a lot of people like to watch me fight, because I didn't fight like every other fighter, because all the coaches were trying to make them all do the same exact thing, and we're not all the same person.
That's true.
We're not all supposed to fight the same way. We're not all supposed to be literally minion copies of each other. And so what you have an ability to do is take an athlete, see their strengths, see their weaknesses, and then build like a rapport with that athlete where, like, you know, their boundaries. You're not willing to let your athletes go and get hurt because you want them to do a certain kick, which I could not do the majority of the kicks of all the high level athletes. And then when I got coached by the people who were high-level coaches, they were trying to get me to do things that I could not do. And it wasn't that I couldn't win the match. It was that I wasn't going to do it by your strategy.
Right.
But I didn't have to.
And you're right. My theory.
And also, it wasn't like a Like a lot of people are, oh my gosh, I'm inflexible. It's why I'm losing my fights. It was never that. You would never let that be our excuse. It's like, no, you have to find a way around this because
that's just the mentality.
it's a mindset.
That's our family mindset.
But you
though.
had the same mindset, and it's a mindset that you've cultivated in every athlete you've ever worked with, and it's why people gravitate towards you. It's also not for everyone.
Yeah, I mean,
You know?
that's the thing is I say get their mentality up, find the low hanging fruit, right? The things that can help them position them to win, take the assets they do have, and then we always work on the other things. You did develop the ability to do certain kicks you weren't comfortable with over time, but we don't have to make that the primary thing. We can start with what works. And there's a lot of other things that help win the match.
And again, like the things that I couldn't physically do, it was really outside of my control. And it's not something you necessarily want to throw in there at a competition. But the things you focused and the wins that you allowed, like, even if I lost, I never felt like I lost because if you would kind of know, or you'd be like, hey, if you just do this, like that is a great match.
Right.
You wouldn't say if you win, it's a great match. It was if you can land a head kick. Even when we were kids, you used to give us quarters if we could just
spins.
If we could just do something. Quarters is like little, we didn't get a quarter if we won. We got a quarter if we did a technique that we've been practicing. So if there was something that you were practicing diligently with an athlete, and then you take them into a tournament.
Not just the three of you, the whole class.
The whole class, everyone.
Yeah.
You would reward them based on applying something that they learned,
right.
Not something that that they can't do. That you're just like that. Really, it's so. What's the word?
I have a good example.
It's depressing to sit there with someone and have them tell you what to do, and you just can't do it. Then you feel like a failure.
Well, I have a good example of the opposite too.
Yeah.
Gabby, one of the best athletes we got to coach.
Yeah.
And you helped get her there because you used to really put a lot of pressure on her. I remember the first tournament ever. I barely knew a lot about her. I was the coach. She had just started sparring, but she had a really good head kick game, right? So she goes out, she fights this girl, and in the first round, she's just kicking her in the face, and she's winning. So I tell her, listen, stop kicking the face. I think I wanted a cut kick or some other kick. Hit the body. We know you can hit the face. Let's practice that. And she did it. And she just did all the face shots. And I didn't know her dad at the time at all, never met her father. So I get done, and I said, listen, and she's like 8, And I said, sweetie, I know that you won, but if you want, do you really like this? Yes. Do you want to be a good fighter? Yes. I said, so it's not important that you won. What's more important is that you listen to your coach.
Yeah.
And you didn't listen to me at all. So honestly, you got the medal. It's your first tournament. Great. I'm not really excited about the medal. Frankly, I'd have rather you lost listening to me than winning the medal.
That's not just the only occasion you've ever said that either.
But she was so sad.
Yeah.
Her dad, I didn't realize it was a Rose's tournament. So that was, it was a hockey arena. And he was right there, and I didn't really know that it was her dad there, right? So you know what he said to me when we went to the medal stand? Thank you. She needed that, and sometimes she doesn't listen at home too, so we really appreciate that lesson. And their parents, turns out they're just some of the greatest parents I've ever had.
For real.
They're great people. They all are about responsibility. I mean, just amazing support. I had no clue who he was, right? So that's the whole concept. Yes, I've had those conversations more than once.
Well, so that kind of goes back to how you parented us too. It's like you set us up to fail so that we could learn a hard lesson that we could have waited until adulthood or when we're no longer under your guidance to learn, but you made it really intentional and then drove the point home. And also you didn't even have to engineer it that way. You just let it happen.
Yeah. So what's it going to hurt? It's not going to hurt you. You're not going to die.
Not. You learn how to figure how to deal with those situations. And I see you do this all the time. You actually position your athletes to fail sometimes for those lessons.
Right.
Like you put that, say like you have a younger athlete who's actually not a black belt, but you put them up in a higher bracket so that they can get the experience of how to handle a heavier opponent. Sometimes you're going to go to a tournament and they're not going to have someone who's exactly your weight. And rather than wanting to win that because you've been winning for so long, you could be set up to basically fail. And also it really keeps people more in check, humbly, and like people who would just win all the time. Then when they finally lose,
it's a false sense of security.
Yeah.
They think they're that good and they tend not to keep the pedal down.
Yeah, they quit trying. And so we it happens all the time to me. I feel like I'm on top of the world and I'm like, oh my gosh, I failed and I should have been paying attention to all these other things. And then it's really important, but people take those failures and they take it so personally and they let it keep them down and prevent them from excelling at what they are really good at.
Right.
You know?
I just tell them when they do lose something that they actually should have won, if they're really upset, I'm like, all right, go over there, be pissed off for 30 minutes, and it's over. That's it. Next. There's no point in looking backwards.
Yeah.
You know, you have to go
And
forward.
it's a mindset thing. If you're just thinking about like, the only way I win is if at the end of this match, I have more points on the board. I cannot tell you how many times I would go to a tournament where it would be paper scoring or even technology. It's not perfect. And then my points wouldn't score, or it'd be based off of the judges' opinions. And frankly, a lot of the judges don't like you.
Right,
So
right.
in turn, they wouldn't like me because you were sitting in the chair. And it can be an excuse, but also if I was so hung up on winning
Right.
the match and what the points were at the end of the match, then I would not have enjoyed competing with you as much as I did.
Right, right.
We could take that, realize that there was a flaw, and then also be like, well, I did this really well. And so it's not like mindset wise, if you're only focused on one thing, then it's really, really easy to be disappointed when it doesn't happen.
Right. Well, you always came off smiling. You know, there's another athlete, Damian Villa. He's a guy who was actually, I think, an Olympian from Mexico, and just a great guy. His brother's an amazing athlete. Just the family is crazy cool, very aggressive, very hard. These guys are just kind of old school in some ways, but currently they got a lot of athletes. But he's still doing things. He's fighting in this kickboxing league. Win or lose, doesn't care. I've seen him win and lose. He's always smiling. He's always, now some people say when he was younger he was a lot more upset about losing or whatever. That's fine, but I think that example goes a long way for the kids. You know, and so you remind me of that too. Like when you're out there, you're always happy. Even Megan, after this match, she was happy, and you know she's out there talking to everybody. They're over there taking pictures with each other. You know, the gal that she fought, we know well. We know the coach well. We're all friends. But at the time, yeah, she about knocked her out, even though she lost the match. But that they all understand that's the game, like you had said.
Yeah.
So, and I love that, and I love that Megan's even fighting. I didn't tell her to fight; she wanted to. I love that.
Yeah.
You know,
I personally, when so I've always been scared of losing the Taekwondo matches, especially because like growing up, I would see all these other people win. I'm like, oh my gosh, how do you do that? And then when you finally get out of your head and realize it's not just about the score at the end of the day, it's just about having fun. So if you're not having fun doing it, give it up. Like,
you will
it's not
start
worth
winning
it.
if you keep applying.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it phrases it in a different way. And also I love challenges. So instead of seeing it as a win or lose situation, I saw it as I'm going to overcome this challenge. And especially when I went into the high level competitions, like people might wonder why after 3 months of training, after so many years off, did I decide to go to a world level tournament? I wanted the challenge because you don't grow in comfort. I chose that. And I knew it was going to be really hard. And I knew that I would be in such a situation that like normally you wouldn't necessarily want to put yourself in if you wanted to be comfortable, but you don't grow in comfort. There's always rain before a rainbow. And I knew that to get to the next level in my life that I had to put myself into really, like at the end of the day, it didn't matter if I won or lost. It did not matter.
And I love that because I tried to slow you down. You wouldn't let me.
No, it didn't matter if I won or lost. But what did matter to me was that I practiced being uncomfortable in a very safe environment. I was with you and I got to see people that I've known for a long time and build relationships with people. Like I would have these young athletes come up to me like, oh my gosh, I love watching you fight. And I'm like, for why? Like, why me? Like, I actually didn't really understand why, but I think it was because of my attitude around fighting. But really, at the end of the day, I didn't give a shit about winning.
Right.
I didn't give a shit about being the best. I gave a shit about putting my all into a challenge. And no matter what, even if I didn't want to, picking it up and doing it again, day after day. And that's what athletes do. It's why they tend to excel.
But I think
in a lot of areas of life.
I think you only had something to prove to yourself, which is the perfect scenario.
I did.
It
but
wasn't
I had
for
to
me.
I had to prove that that I could put myself in those situations
Right.
and come out victorious no matter what people ever said to me.
So I have a question. Pop quiz.
Yes.
What did I say to you just before you started your very first world event? I think it was the U.S. Open. What did I say to you just before you stepped out? Because I remember it perfectly.
What did you say? Honestly, if I'm being totally fair, that entire day was a whirlwind. I had a lot of people come up to me and they're asking if I was okay because apparently I looked like I was very distraught and sad. And actually I was like, I'm very excited right now. But it's like when you know you're about to go to war, like you have to get in the mindset. So like I was sitting there and I was visualizing what I was going to do. And I was so engrossed in it that I wasn't like my normal peppy, happy self, which is normally smiling at everyone. I wasn't even focusing on the real world. And before every match, actually every time I stepped out on the mat specifically, I always thought like, that I peed myself. Because seriously, I was so nervous that I had to pee. And I would
What?
always run. Like right before I
know
I
that.
would always run
Yeah.
to go pee. And you're like, Melissa, hurry. Like you're about to fight. And I was like, it's okay. They'll wait for me. And then I would go pee because I knew that. And I would literally, I would went as far as I thought it was dripping down my leg. And I would always have to check because I was so like, that's how absolutely terrified I was. Like I truly was. Nobody ever realized that. They didn't actually know. Hang on. But over time, I told you, I'm like, I need you actually to not talk to me before my fights because I know what I have to do. Because nothing you said to me immediately before stepping onto the mat consciously registered in my brain.
This one
long answer short, no.
I'm forever going to say this made a difference because
I'm sure it did, but consciously I don't remember.
But you understand, this was for me as much as you.
Yeah.
You understand that I have those
you
anxieties.
You also were nervous.
You're my daughter, and I had to make sure I was in the coach mode.
Yeah.
Right? So I said, honey, we've already won. We're here together. We're going to have a great time.
I do remember that, but yeah.
And I said,
but that was a mindset always. Like even on our way there, you would say that to me over and over again.
But I had to believe it because I had to sit down, take a deep breath, and say, Shane, coach the exchange. Because if I was worried about, I always tell the athletes, if you're out there trying not to lose, fighting not to lose, you're not going to win. So I had to basically sit there, be your eyes and ears, watch you do your job. You do the same thing. Because also the other really important key thing that you asked me is like, what do I do? And I'm like, you've never asked that before. You go, but I just don't know what to do because you have this perception they're so much better. They have a plan. So I said, listen, and I say this all the time now. This is a common thing I tell the athletes.
Yeah.
I said, what's one or two things that are going to happen? You said cut or cancel. I said, right. I said, you're either going to cut in pressure or they're going to cut in pressure generally. And you're going to have to, do one of those two things. After that happens, that's all you have to anticipate because you know what to do. We've practiced thousands of times what to do once that engagement starts, right? So I said, you don't have to know anything other than to be willing to press in and expect the engagement and invite it, not be worried about it, and everything else will happen. And that's exactly, I mean, dude, you almost knocked out Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
You had tremendous, you beat one of Juan Moreno's girls, who was an amazing girl, and almost beat a second girl, right?
Yeah.
It was actually Oiley's girl, but they're all peak girls. They were very strong athletes. So these are really, when I saw the division, I was like, oh my God, talk about a way to get broken into a world level event. They're great kids and great coaches, right? So you had a great day, but once you dialed in and once I just was a coach and did my job specifically without the anxiety of you being my baby girl, it was the greatest day ever.
It was so much fun. But yeah, honestly, I did have something to prove to myself, and it was that I could stick with something and overcome the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I actually do remember, I'm like, what do I, like before every match, my mind went entirely blank. And I was like, I would always be like, I have no idea what to do. What am I doing here? Who am I to be fighting in a tournament like this? I don't deserve this. This isn't, and like I had to cancel. I'd actually tell myself, shut up. You should not be telling yourself that because it's a mindset thing. If you believe it, it's true.
Mm-hmm.
If you believe it, it's true. And so I had to start believing, or at least telling myself, even though I didn't believe it, that I
fake it till you make it.
That I deserve to be there. That who are these people? Not that I'm trying to put down anyone, but how are they any better than I am? All we are doing is here to compete and try and put in the effort. And whoever puts in the most effort and keeps, stays the most committed, no matter how good you are, you will end up on top. It's about consistency and long-term contributions to a goal.
I will repeat, Master Shin said, and I'll never forget this. He used to say, I was never the most flexible. I was never the fastest. I was never the most coordinated. He goes, but I promise you, if you do something long enough, you can't not get better.
You would have to try to not get better.
Right.
You would have to be thinking you can't get better to not get better.
Right. No, I agree. It's incredible.
Absolutely. That's so cool. So we talked about a lot. We're rolling, right?
We got a half an hour roll to go.
Oh, well.
To roll.
Do you have anything else you want to cover? I mean,
I could talk forever. I've been thinking of so many different things. Did we talk about Peter's helmet yet? And what he did with it? Did I talk about that?
No.
Did I talk about the gladiator helmet?
Oh, yeah, no, we talked about it last episode. Where we took all the
photos with the
and...
gladiator helmet. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was freaking hilarious.
do a segment where I fucking what he says about things. You need to think about that one, and then I'll come in. You'd be like, okay, everybody thinks I'm full of shit online. What about this? What about this? And I could actually.
Well, you and I need to get together on one of these. We need a whole hour and a half with you and I. The reason I've been holding off is I'm telling you, we're gonna.
Shocker. Like, I'm like,
We're gonna get fucking canceled as soon as our podcast comes out. You understand that, right? Like that's gonna be the day that everybody's gonna try to
Something that I do
cancel.
want to say, because we kind of started this. I mean, we honestly, so we did not plan anything that we're talking about today. It very much comes organically, but then it also goes back to like we have these conversations all the time at home. So we're never at a loss, or we always know kind of where we're coming from
Right.
because we have these conversations all the time. It's just in a different format, but like we kind of started talking about something that we didn't really agree about, and like that's important to highlight because our world is so quick to cancel something that you disagree with, and we do not agree on everything.
No, people think I tell all you kids what to do. They really do. They think I'm like bullying you guys.
But also, we don't listen to you all the time
Right.
because you didn't raise us to listen to everything you say.
Right.
But you do tell us what to do, but you should.
Well,
because
only when
you're
you
our
ask.
dad.
Yeah, or
well,
if, yeah.
nowadays, but like,
Right.
but you always did. You gave us the ability to critically, well, to think through, like, and just kind of ignore the BS. And I have lost jobs over my personality and or like just the fact that I'm not really willing to do what other people tell me I should do.
No, if you don't think it's
and I've
right.
made my peace with that because I was raised that way.
Right.
But we certainly do not agree on everything. And I struggle with some of the things that, or the way, honestly, the way you debate. We've debated a lot. And then I feel like sometimes you just talk louder and then you think you win because you're louder. And that's typical if we want to stereotype you, right? Like,
Right.
I don't know.
Every now and then I actually
the
make
old
sense.
crotchety man. Well, you do, but because I know you, because I know what your actual values are, I don't just write you off as a person because I have one opinion or a lot of opinions that we disagree about.
Well, you often run around behind me and go, okay, here's what he meant by that really harsh statement.
Well, I do because
Translator, yeah.
because so something that else, some research I've been doing and really like. Why do I do that? I don't know. Why does mom do that? Because
She tends not to
No,
as
hang
much.
on. Because as women, we're meant to connect more. We are more emotional, and you are more logical. But it doesn't mean that like that's not important. It's like why man and woman is supposed to unite because together, if you add both of those superpowers together, like you have an unstoppable
fair.
force. So yeah, you can piss off a lot of people, and then when they really know you, like. They don't really just write you off, but they can be mad at you. I'm mad at you every other week. You're so annoying, but I love you to death. And I know that at the end of the day that you 100% have my back. And even if I
Always.
don't agree, like you're family and we do share the same values. And there are some values that maybe I don't have an example, but that we might not have 1,000% the same. But
I was
you know?
telling somebody the other day that I'm in a new era with the kids. Used to be, I'm trying to give you advice not to do things. Don't do this. Don't do that. You know, and now we're to the point where, like, if you want my opinion, I'll give it to you. If you don't want my opinion,
Usually the answer is no.
well, either way, if it goes south, I'm just like, okay, put me in, coach. What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
So I'll just do damage control. So I'm there for you when you fuck up or not, right? And if you ask ahead of time, want my opinion, I'll give it to you. If you do it or not, I'm not going to be mad. I'm like, okay, cool. That was probably not going to go great, but I'm here right here with you. Put me in, coach. And so I'm just here to support you. So whether I'm supporting you on the front end to keep you out of trouble, or whether I'm bailing your ass out of jail, whatever it is, I'm thinking of Peter in this case, whatever it is, okay? It's just, I'm here. It doesn't matter. Either way, I'm going to be here. And the second point is, interesting thing that happened before Lisa and I were married. You know, maybe an only child, sometimes her family partners were overload. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, so I'd come late sometimes, or I'd be working, and her sisters sometimes, sorry ladies, but they'd be there bickering about their husband. I used to make this joke that they're all arguing which one's got the bigger asshole for a husband or whatever, you know? And we were just dating at the time, and I'd show up and they'd be in her ear, oh, he's not here, da-da-da-da-da, and trying to make her like there's something wrong with me. And Lisa finally looked at him and said, listen, if I'm not mad, why are you? We're good. So you're upset. I'm not upset. He's fine. And that's one of the most endearing traits. I mean, talk about loyalty and you know, and listen, there are times maybe I've embarrassed her or maybe I did something. And when
You're
they
very
come,
embarrassing.
very
by the way.
embarrassing. But when they'd come and give her shit, she'd be like, he's right over there. Go tell him.
Yeah, actually,
That's not
so
me.
That's a,
You know,
yeah. So something about that too is like my whole life, there might be something that I said to someone that wasn't perceived the best way. And then they go to my mom and they're like, well, what did she really mean by it? Like, why did this happen? And rather than partaking in like basically drama, unnecessary drama, she would just say, go ask her. Or even if I went through a hard time, like say I went through something like, Like when I did lose my job, they would ask my mom questions like, "Oh, is she okay?" Go ask her.
Yeah.
Nobody will. I mean, people shy away from going and actually having a conversation with another person because our world as a whole, and it's not even that it's confronting someone, but it's seen like that, or people who are not emotionally stable or don't understand why things happen or can think through things at least the way that I can. They don't like those kind of questions. So
Right.
people shy away from actually coming to the source to get the answers that they're seeking.
Right.
And I hate that. It's annoying. Not that, like, I understand why people do it, but I wish more people would come to me because I'm an open book. I'll tell you just about anything if you just ask.
You'll be honest.
You know?
That's it.
And then that's how people really understand your true intention. So in the world of social media, it's just another layer of what are they doing without actually asking what are they doing.
Right.
You know?
No, I agree.
My mom's always been really good about that. Just
she's
go
amazing.
talk to them.
Yeah, and she's amazing. There's no other way around it.
Yeah,
Takes a lot of shit. I put her in rough spots more than I'd like to.
Well, we never did do an intro, so thanks for joining us, guys. I mean, I don't have anything else. Do you?
No, I'm good.
Have any topics?
No, we don't have to force it. We literally just sit here and talk.
I know.
This is like a comedy show.
Really?
You're getting so much better in the last 3 episodes. And
Thank you.
It's fucking amazing. Like you just give. Is it true? Like you're flowing now. Like we all start with the podcast. Like now I'm just. Jason just sounds like talk about this. I'm like blah 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 blah. You're good at it anyway.
Well, it went from me doing 70% of the talking to you doing over 50% of the talking. You're probably like 55, 60%.
Honestly, like to be fair, I mean, this is going to continue evolving into a different format. But lately, like I felt really off base with like really my own opinions, and not that I didn't still believe in them. It's just like I kind of got off base of why I did. And so lately, with everything that's happening, I've gotten back to the core values. And really, honestly, it's just reading the Bible at night and armoring myself with actually God. And then it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's why I remember that. Instead of just listening to all the propaganda I see on my phone all the time,
right,
which is really confusing, even to the most eloquent speakers or the people who do understand why they think a certain way. I mean, that's the biggest difference. And also, the more you practice, it's like a muscle. You just got to do it.
I do want to tell a story that the clip will be good for business. All right. So the Dado systems, the scoring system that we sell for Taekwondo, they have a Generation 3, and they just hit at the German Open.
Oh, I heard.
And they changed the rules and didn't question head kicks. They try to take away turns. They're not going to take away turns, but I think they're going to stick with not even questioning head kicks because it scored so well. But in general, the system did so well, including the electronic punches, that I guess they sent to the referees. The referee gave me the inside scoop. They said that normally even the good referees score about 45% accurately on the punches.
Wow.
The system scored 80% accurate. So they did so well that I heard that a couple NGBs, very big ones, NGBs are the countries that have contracts, have canceled their contracts with the number one competitor, and they're all in on Gen 3. So the Gen 3 systems are really, really scoring well, and it's going to be pretty exciting. And, you know, because we're selling it and we're just getting it all in to sell, I'm just pretty excited about that. And that was a big, it's been a hard road for it because Gen 3 came out. There were some adjustments to a couple of the events, but it's designed so much different. Usually you have a system that you build it and has some limitations, the very first generation. Then you have Generation 2 that had some better things, but still was going to be the way it was for X amount of time.
Yeah.
The Generation 3 system is so configurable and that it can be configured to change and evolve in that time frame. Mm-hmm. So if they want a score to work different, the way it gets hit to be different, the way it's touched to be different, score different, you're not stuck for that entire iteration of just dealing with these flaws. The system is configurable. So I'm just really excited about that, and I want to definitely use this clip for our True Score business.
That's awesome.
That's it. Now we can be done.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us on episode 9. Is it really episode 9?
That is crazy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Oh, we'll be canceled eventually. We'll try hard.
Well, you can't be canceled when you actually don't care about what the world says about you because it just doesn't matter.
Because I don't give a shit. Yeah, that's true. If Kevin hasn't been kicked off, no one's getting kicked off.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us, and peace.